Good morning, everyone. We're so glad you could join us for our Taiji Qigong 18 forums today. This program is generously sponsored by the library trustees. Before we start our program, I would like to read a brief disclaimer. Participation in this online Tai Chi and Qigong program, while generally considered safe, could result in injury. Not all the material presented here are suitable for everyone. These exercises are not intended to substitute for appropriate medical care or advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any exercise program. Program creators, teachers, producers, and hosts assume no responsibility for injuries resulting from the use of this material. Without any further delay, please welcome our instructor, Anson Rathbone.
This is our class number 5 of our Taiji Qigong 18 forms set. So we'll continue with the format that we've been using. So we'll start out with some preparatory movements, some warm-ups. So if you remember, the first warm-up is balancing on one leg and circling the knee. This leg I'm relaxing. So just touching at the ball of the foot and rotating the knee in an outward direction. Maybe 10 or 12 times. Then we go back the other way. Okay, relax the leg even more, lift it up and 3 loose kicks. If you need to use a chair, you can put your hand on that to balance. So the other leg. And going the other way now. Relax the leg and 3 loose kicks. Put your feet right together, no space between them. And bend over, press the knees back. Get a nice stretch in the low back, bend the knees a little bit. And then circle the knees. Maybe 9 or 10 times one direction. Stretch out the backs of the knees again. Bend the knees again and turn the other way. 9 or 10 times. And again, stretch out the backs of the knees. You can lean your body over a little bit, support your torso with your arms on the thighs. Bend the knees and roll up through the spine. Tap the heels 3 times. Okay, moving up to the waist. Circling in one direction. Nine or 10 times. Turn the other direction. Arch to the front. Arch to the back. Arch to the sides. So we'll be doing our qua squat now. So sinking the tailbone down towards the heels, bending at the knee, bending at the hips as though we're about to sit down, and keeping the knees in place over the feet. So we're not bending the knees this way, keeping the knees in place. So bend, stand up, go to neutral. Bend, stand up, neutral. Lifting from the top of the head. Imagine a pole going down through the center of the body, right down into the floor. So we're going to turn around that. So we want to have the whole torso moving as one piece. Nose and navel stay in one line. So we'll be using that today with the review of one of the postures that we did from last week. And stepping out a little wider, shifting the weight side to side. And we'll be using this, reviewing one of the other postures we did last week. So at first, we're just going side to side. Slow it down if you can. Experiment with the widths, make sure it's comfortable for you. So now we're going to be adding our axis turn. So again, nose, navel, moving together, staying in one line. So we want the lateral shifting and the turning to arrive at an end point at the same time. So try to coordinate that as best you can. Feel the change in the weight in the feet. Okay. So now we'll go up to the shoulders. So we'll do our shoulder series, concentrating on the scapula, the shoulder blades. So lifting the shoulders up slightly and then lowering them. This need not be a big movement. And in fact, if it is a bigger movement, you might tend to create more tension than you're trying to let go. So we're using these preparatory movements to kind of open the body, relax the body, get things moving. So notice, does this movement feel sort of jerky or is it nice and smooth? If it feels kind of jerky, do the best you can to relax it. And also maybe make the movement a little bit smaller. So the arms are just going along for the ride. Okay, now we're going to shift to the next one, causing the scapula to move apart, shoulder blades to move apart, and then come back towards the spines. And as they come apart, they're going to round around the top of the rib cage a little bit. So it causes the arms to kind of move in an arc, keeping the rest of the body just upright, lifting from the top of the head, feeling the weight down through the center of the foot. Keep the chest relaxed, sunk in a little bit. And pay attention to your scapula. Try to feel what they're doing. Next one, the hands are in front. Put your mind in the elbow. And by moving the scapula and the shoulder, feel the arm move out from the body and then come back. So the scapula will move apart and around the top of the rib cage a little bit. And when you go back, the scapula will close a little bit closer to the spine, grow a little closer to the spine. So we don't need to have too much of this kind of movement. And a similar thing to the sides. Trying to feel the scapula moving apart and coming together, moving apart as the arms go out, coming together as the arms come in a little bit. So putting your mind in the elbow. So we don't need to do a lot of this, but we want to draw the arms out from the body by pushing the elbows out gently and then drawing them back. Try to have the movement really be from the movement of the shoulder blades sliding out and sliding back towards the spine. It might just be a small movement. Okay, so now we can circle the shoulder blades. Just allow the arms to hang down loose. So we go up the back, across the top, down the front. Really concentrate on feeling those scapula move and relaxing. Just relax the whole shoulder girdle. Try making the movement smaller so that you can really get it to smooth out and feel comfortable. And up the front, down the back. So now we can kind of alternate them. Up the front and down the back. Go the other way, up the back, down the front. Both together again. Shake the arms. Can bounce in the legs. So we'll do a little bit of standing, lifting gently from the top of the head. You can almost feel as though there's a string tied to the top of the head and you're hanging from that like a puppet. So notice how that allows your neck to draw out a little bit and causes your chin to tuck. The neck will straighten somewhat in the back. It's all very relaxed, very comfortable. Shoulders drop down, elbows drop down, and the body hangs down from there. Can feel the tailbone gently sink down towards the heels, bend a little bit at the quad, the inguinal crease, Bend the knees slightly and have the weight centered over your feet. And your feet are parallel. Keep your feet parallel. And we'll just stand here for a moment. Keep going over your body alignments. So you're sort of stacking everything inside of the gravitational pull that's pulling it down on your body. Everything stacks up one on top of the other. Try to have that stacking be as relaxed as possible. Release all the tension from your body. Just let it drain down through your body into the ground. Let your breathing become kind of long and slow. If you feel tension developing anywhere in your body, just do your best to bring your awareness to that part and notice what's going on. And if you can just let it relax, you may find that some of that tension will just drain away. Or if there's some little adjustment that you can make that helps. Okay. So let's start with, we'll review the two new postures we introduced last week. So we've done our preparatory movements, so now we're moving into the part of the class where we're actually doing the Taiji Qigong 18 forms. So last week we introduced a posture called turn and push palm. So take your standing position again. Imagine the base of this movement is this axis turn. So think of that pole going down through the top of your head, through the bottom of the torso, straight down into the floor, and you're turning around that pole, keeping the nose and navel in one line. So remember the hands are at the tops of the hips, palms up. So as we turn to one side, that hand goes out, turn back, turn to the other side. So we're trying to coordinate the amount of turning with the amount of extension that the arm has. Notice that the elbow is bent. You want to have a sense that the elbow is somewhat heavy, relaxed. The arm is very relaxed. So coordinate the turning so that the hand arrives at the end of its movement when you've finished turning all the way. And the turning should not be so far as to distort the relationship between the nose and the navel being in one line. So you may be turning far less than you probably actually can, and that's fine. So inhale as the hand comes back, exhale out. Inhale back, exhale out. Let it be so that the arm is moving because the body is moving. The torso is moving. You're turning around your axis, so that's what sends the arm out. So we want to be careful that we're not reaching out, allowing the arm and the hand to pull our body over that way. We want to keep the body nice and upright and turn and allow the hand to go out off of the movement of the turning around the axis. Okay, so the next posture that we introduced was the cloud hands. So again, this makes use of some other movements that we did in our preparatory warm-ups. So we can take a slightly wider stance and get back to the shifting the weight side to side. So this is the first part of that movement. So when we're shifted, we want to feel as though we want the hip bone, the center of the knee, and the center of the foot to be in one line if we can, or at least we're working towards that. If for some reason it's uncomfortable to do that, then you can back off in whatever way you need to, but you're going to be working towards that gradually over time. So feel the gradual change of the weight in each leg. So now there's more weight in this leg, less in this leg. Let this leg really relax as best you can. And then back the other way. So feel that gradual movement. So that's kind of reflective of what happens with the yin yang symbol. It's a gradual change of yin to yang and yang to yin. So we're sort of modeling that in this movement, and a lot of these movements, but particularly this cloud hands movement. So now we're going to add the axis turn. So as we're shifting, we're also turning around that axis. So you want to maintain that alignment of the leg. You don't want to be twisting the knee out to the side. You may need to let go a little more in the hip or develop some more flexibility there, which can take a little time. So if you find that you're distorting your leg when you turn and shift, maybe turn a little less, shift a little less. So the turning and the shifting are arriving at the same time. So here I've turned as much as I'm going to turn, I've shifted as much as I'm going to shift. So they arrive together at the same time. So halfway in between, I'm straight, I'm facing forward. And nose and navel throughout the whole movement are still in one line. Lifting from the top of the head, tuck the chin, sink the tailbone down towards the heels. So this is the lower body. So you should do these first movements of the cloud hands until you're really comfortable and familiar with this basic body movement, the legs, the torso. Then you can begin to add the hand. And remember, we're moving towards this leg. This leg is becoming the heavy leg. The hand on top, we're going to be moving towards the elbow. See how that works? So we go the other way, we're moving towards the other elbow, towards the weighted leg. So just work with one hand. So the hand comes across the top and across the bottom. Across the top, going this way, going across the bottom, going this way. So the body's still doing the same thing, the shifting, the turning, nose and navel in one line. You may find that when you start to add more and more parts to this movement, that it starts to fall apart. That means you need to spend a little more time with the basic movements. Try the other hand. So really, what I'm doing with the hand is more or less just this. Because I've added the shifting and the turning, it makes it look like the hand is moving in a circle like this. But basically, the hand and arm in relation to the body more or less stays in the same orientation. I'm using the turning and the shifting to change the position of the arm in space to make a circular movement. Hope that makes sense. So this is another level of it where you're just working with one hand at a time. I would recommend practicing this movement a lot if you can. This movement kind of encompasses a lot of what Tai Chi is all about. And it can be practiced as a Qigong in itself. This could be your whole Qigong practice is working with this movement. Now see if you can add both hands together. So paying attention, making sure that the torso is doing all the things that we had established before, the shifting, the turning, nose and navel staying in one line, one leg taking the weight, the other leg becoming more relaxed. If this is hard, then go back to the previous stage of just working with one arm. And if that's hard, then just go back to the shifting and turning. And if the shifting and turning is hard, just go back to the shifting side to side. So you can see you can build up this practice so that you can eventually get so that you can do the whole movement in a comfortable, relaxed way and still keep all of the various details working. Okay. I would like to, before we do our more comprehensive review, I would like to do the new postures. So the new postures for today, I'm going to introduce three, but they're kind of all based on the same thing. So the bottom of the body is going to do something what we call the bow and arrow stance. So basically to get into a bow and arrow stance, I shift the weight to one side, step the foot forward, shift the weight into that leg, and then I can let the back leg turn out a little bit. Okay. So the reason this is called bow and arrow is that one leg is relatively straight, the other leg is sort of bent. So like a bow and an arrow, the bow is bent, the arrow is straight. So it's a little bit that kind of idea. And it's used a lot in the Taiji form, the Taiji Chuan form. So for this movement, let me correct that. There's a better way to get into this posture. So first we're going to turn. So we turn around our axis and we lift up the toe on one side. Okay, so we pivot on the heel. See how I'm pivoting on the heel here? So we shift the weight into that leg after I've pivoted on the heel, and then I step forward with the leg. So for this movement, so that's what this would look like from the side. So the weight can be back or to the front, depending. This movement, this first movement of these new movements is called scooping the C. So the weight's going to be more or less in the middle. There will be a little bit of shifting back and forth, but it's more leaning the upper body. So we're leaning, bending from the hip. The torso is more or less kept upright, you know, from the tailbone right up through the top of the head. We're not collapsing the front of the body down, but we're keeping it all open. And then the arms are like the circling hands movement that we did. Remember this one towards the beginning of the set? So the arms are kind of like that. So bending to the front, straightening up. So the idea is that we're standing in the sea and we're dipping down, scooping up some water and letting that pour down over us. The arms cross at the wrist, so you can cross them either way, it doesn't matter. You can switch, alternate them if you like. So from the side. So there is some shifting back and forth, but not as much as we'll do in the next two postures. So you can do this on either side. Generally in the form, the way it's usually taught, it's only done with the left foot forward. But you can switch that up each time you do the form. You can do it on a different side. Or you can do a few more of them and change midway. Okay, so the next one builds on the same bow and arrow stance. So to review how to get into this, we shift the weight a little bit to one side, turn our axis, and pivot on the heel. So you're turning the foot out maybe 30 degrees, maybe 45. And then I step forward with the other foot. So I'm still keeping some space between the heels. So for the next movement, when we shift back, we're going to pull up the heel, and we're going to be shifting all the way back. And then when we shift to the front, we're going to be lifting the heel. I'm sorry, I didn't say that right. When we shift back, we're going to be lifting the toe. See? And then when I shift to the front, I lift the heel. See how that works? From the side. See, I'm lifting the heel in the back here, lifting the toe in the front. So by lifting the heel, it gives me a little bit of extra room to move back all the way. And when I shift the weight to the front, it gives me a little bit more ability to shift all my weight to this front foot. So when my weight is on the front foot, I want to be kind of standing up on that foot. I'm not leaning forward. I'm still kind of moving towards a straight up and down posture here. And when I shift back, my body's still straight up and down. That may make this back thigh work harder. So, go carefully and gradually build up the strength. So you can stand a little higher if you're finding this is a strain on the legs, and then gradually get so that you can sink down a little bit lower. Okay, so for this movement, it's called playing with pushing waves, or playing with waves. I have to check. So as we shift forward and we stand up on that front foot, the hands go out, almost as though we're pushing a swing. So inhale as the hands go down and back, and exhale as they go to the front. With any of these, as we're introducing them, if trying to integrate the breathing with the movement is problematic, then just leave the breathing out for now. It's okay, just breathe normal. And then later, you can add the breathing. But I just mentioned it now so you have a reference. So inhale as the hands come back, and exhale to the front. There will be some tendency for people to kind of lean back like this. It's better to stay upright. The leaning back, especially with this movement, the first movement, the leaning back kind of compresses the lower vertebrae in the back, and that may actually, over time, not be so good for that area. It's usually because this thigh, the back thigh, doesn't really want to take the weight. The body can be a little lazy. It's not used to doing things that are beyond its normal routine and capacity. So to resist going down into this leg, you'll lean back in order to get a little more movement out of the posture. So if you can, try to have a feeling that you're sitting down into that leg. Okay, so pushing waves. And then the next movement is kind of the opposite of that. It's called spreading wings. So the hands open to the sides and then pull back close to the center. So exhale as the hands go out, inhale as they come back. Okay, so these three movements again. So after we've done the last of the cloud hands, the hands drop, we step back to a more normal position, turn the foot, step out, scooping the C. So for this one, we're not lifting the heels or the toes. So mostly it's bending from the hip. A little bit of weight shifting going on, but not as much as we will be doing with the next two postures. So the next one is pushing waves. So the heel comes up in the back, the toe comes up in the front. So inhale back, exhale out to the front. And then spreading wings. Okay. So those are the new postures for today, the three new postures. So let's just do a review of everything so far. Okay. So starting at the beginning, we've done our standing, get into our standing position. Maybe we've done a few minutes of standing. And then inhale, hands come up, commencing form. Exhale, hands come down. Elbows down, wrists down. Broadening the chest. So standing up into the posture as we inhale, and then as we exhale, we cross squat a little bit. And playing with rainbows, hands up over the heads. Inhale one side, exhale the other. Circling hands. Repulse monkey. Inhale as the hand comes back, exhale as it goes out to the front. So we're turning on the axis. Nose and navel stay in one line. Rowing a boat. Lift a ball. Inhale up, exhale down. Carry the moon. Inhale up, exhale down. Twist and push. Turning around the central axis. Coordinating the turning with the hand going out. Inhale back, exhale out. Cloud hands. Scooping the sea. Pushing waves. Spreading wings. Okay. And as we had said before, we then, after finishing our set, even if we've only done part of the set, we finish with the 18th posture, which is the lift and press palms. So inhale as the hands come up and exhale down. And if we like, we can do a little quiet standing afterwards. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about breathing. And we've been developing this practice, this separate practice that we can do outside of our Taiji Qigong set. So we've been working with inhaling into the nose, feeling the breath coming into the nose and going out. So we're not trying to influence the breath at this point, but we just want to feel it going in and going out and beginning to tuning into that rhythm. And then gradually feeling the breath going a little deeper into the nose and coming out, and then deeper. And then eventually working our way down so we can feel the breath at the throat, going in as far as the throat and then coming out. Of course, the breath is going deeper than that. We're just following it. We're using the breath as a tool to give our awareness something to follow. So progressively working down to the top of the lungs. So you feel the breath coming in to the top of the lungs and then feel it going out. So try that and see if you can feel that. So one other element, so you can work your way down into the lungs. So the top of the lungs, the middle of the lungs, and the lower lungs. Feel the breath going out from there and coming in gradually, piece by piece. So another thing you can begin to do is to allow the ends of your breath to join. So it's not like in, stop, out, stop. No, we want to have it be continuous. So inhaling, and there's a point where it changes over to exhaling. So it begins to have more of a continuous, almost a circular kind of breathing. Try that this week and see if you can kind of develop that. So the idea would be that the breath is always moving. It's either going in or coming out. And even as you're breathing in and you've almost reached the end of your breath, it's already starting to prepare to go out so that when it does, it follows smoothly. So there's not like a hard stop at one end and going back and a hard stop at the other. So you're trying to smooth that out so that it becomes more of a circular affair. Sort of like throwing a ball up in the air. You know, the ball doesn't just go up and then suddenly come down. If you were able to see it in slow motion, the ball would gradually slow down as it's going up and then appear for an instant, maybe to stop. And then slowly it starts to come down and accelerate as it's coming down. So in a way, see if you could find that in your breath. See if we can find a way to make the breath continuous. So inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, exhale, inhale. So yeah, see if you can develop that. Okay, that's going to be all for today. I hope you're getting something out of the class. Let us know. Any questions? Send them to the email address that Rhonda usually puts up in the chat, or you can go to the library web page, and I think there's an Ask a Librarian place on their main web page. So check that and see if you have any questions. They'll forward them to me, and I can get back to you. Otherwise, I'll see you next week.